Hi, class. We're going to start our review because we're nearing the end of the semester with some of our first comma rules. So remember, this semester in our grammar study, we are going to become masters of the comma. And the comma is that pesky little punctuation piece, punctuation bit that trips a lot of people up. I even read things in well-known articles and journals where people have not used the comma correctly. So I want to make sure we know that you know how to use the comma. So one of the first things we did was to look at the comma with the compound sentence. And before I do that, I want to just quickly review the basic elements, the basic ingredients of a sentence. So every sentence must have a subject. Every sentence must have a verb. And every sentence must have a complete thought. These are the three absolute must elements in a sentence. Now, obviously, sentences start with capital letters and sentences end with some punctuation, but every sentence needs a subject. Every sentence needs a verb and a complete thought. And when we talk about complex sentences, we'll talk about the difference between later. So a subject, a verb, complete thought, and that is a sentence. It's also what we would call a main clause or an independent clause. And these are somewhat synonymous because they have the same elements in them. Okay, so these are our basic parts of a sentence. We all know that. We've talked about that multiple times. And I'm going to use some notation. S is for my subject and V is for my verb, because every sentence needs at least a subject and a verb. Sentences also have adjectives. Sentences have adverbs. Sentences have prepositional phrases. Sentences can have interjections. All of those other elements are added, but the basic element, the thing that makes it a sentence, is that it has a subject and a verb. Now, we're talking about commas and the compound sentence. I'm going to put, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but subject one and verb one. So a compound sentence kind of has this formula. It looks kind of like a math or chemistry formula. But you have a subject and a verb, and we have a comma. And then we throw in one of our beloved fanboys. So most of you remember fanboys are coordinating conjunctions. Coordinating conjunctions. They are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. So those are coordinating conjunctions. To build a compound sentence, you need a subject and a verb, a comma, fanboys, and then a second subject, put a plus sign, and verb that go together. So this verb is matched with this. Let's do some examples. The cat slept in dog's life, as far as I can tell. So let's look at these sentences. Here's our subject. We have our comma, and we have a coordinating conjunction. I'm sitting here in my game room. Oh, I can't turn my, I can. So we have shelves, we have games. We have games coming out of our ears. Lots of games at the Pritchard house. But not everybody likes to play a game. So I could say, I played a game. And my son took a nap. And truth be told, it's really the other way around. I would be taking the nap and he'd be playing a game. But I also love games. So played, here's my verb. And you'll hear me say many times that when I'm looking at a sentence and I'm pulling the pieces apart, I look for the verbs first. So here's a verb. Played, who did the playing? I did. What did I play? A game. So here's just, this is the direct object. Here's a comma and a fanboy, and now we tab the second part. So a compound sentence joins two sentences that could have lived separately, but instead it joins them. So I played a game. That could have been a great sentence all on its own. This part, my son took a nap. That also could have been a sentence all on its own. So let's find, here's my verb, took. Who took the nap? My son, and nap here is a direct object. So compound sentences, sometimes people get confused if they have a sentence with a compound subject. So if I said the cat and the dog slept, right here, here's my subject, the cat and the dog. It's a compound subject. So in the subject, I have more than one noun, but I only have one verb. Sometimes people get confused if there are two verbs. The cat ate and slept. Okay, I have two verbs here and one noun. Here's my subject. Here's my verb. I have two action words, two verbs that make up a compound verb. Still, it's not a compound sentence, so I'm not putting a comma in there. One more mistake. Cat and the dog slept and ate. Should have put it the other way around, but cat and dog. There I have a compound subject. Slept and ate. I have a compound verb. And so one way to test this is to look at your verbs again. And actually the word verb, and you might have heard me say this before, the word verb comes from the Latin word verbum or verbum. And this in Latin simply means word. So many people consider the verb to be the primary word in a sentence. So if I've got, so one way to tell is you find the verb first. Slept and ate. Who are doing this, what or who or how many are doing the sleeping and eating? The cat and the dog. So you have the cat and the dog are both doing the action of sleeping and eating. Therefore, it's not a compound sentence. It's a sentence that has a compound subject and a compound verb. So that, in a nutshell, is our compound sentences. So in order, one reason why I love to teach commas is that in order to teach you how to use the comma, I sneak a lot of other grammar rules in. So we talked about the basic sentence parts. You need a subject and a verb and a complete thought. And when you have two, I'm going to write that kind of formula again. I have a subject and a verb, and I have another subject and a verb. And that is our comma rule for compound sentences.